shorter case today. I'll try to slow down and make it as long as I can, but this is a case requested by one of you guys, and I found it really interesting and kind of weird, so I thought I would get it out there and we can talk about it. I only have 4 pages of notes, so hopefully it's not terribly short. But this is about the boys on the train tracks. 16-year-old Don Henry and 17-year-old Kevin Ives were best friends. They went to high school and did everything together. And in the early morning hours of August 23rd, 1987, they also died together. It was very early, 4 a.m. on a Sunday, and a Union Pacific cargo locomotive was chugging along the tracks at around 52 miles an hour through the murk at a place called Crooked Creek, near the town of Bryant, Arkansas, on its way to Little Rock. It was a smooth, routine run for the train crew, and there'd been no signs of anything amiss so far. But as they rounded a bend, they saw, speeding up through the early morning dimness, a horrifying sight. 2 apparently human figures, partially wrapped in a green tarp, lying motionless across the tracks ahead. The train blazed its horn in warning, with no response, but they had no chance of stopping so suddenly, and the crew watched with horror as the train sped over the boys, dragging them for a full mile and mangling them beyond recognition before the train was able to come to a halt. Train engineer Stephen Schroyer would say of the gruesome scene that unfolded upon spotting the mysterious figures, "I started laying down on the horn and got no reaction, nothing at all, and not even so much as a flinch, and we just passed over them. From the time that we placed the train into the emergency position and laid on the horn, I would estimate about 3 to 5 seconds to impact. And that may not sound like a very long period of time, but when you're bearing down on a couple of kids, it's an eternity." I can't even. And many people watched this. So Don and Kevin were typical teenagers. They loved cars and hunting, and on the weekends went on double dates with their girlfriends. On August 23rd, they had met a group of friends at the commuter parking lot, which is a popular gathering place for local teenagers in Bryant, Arkansas. Roughly around midnight, the boys went to Don's house to get a rifle to go spotlighting. This is a method of night hunting animals using off-road vehicles and flashlights. They transfix the prey with a light and the other person shoots it. Apparently this is illegal in Arkansas. They had a quick chat with Don's father and said they'd go hunting near the train tracks. And this was the last time that they were seen alive. According to the train crew, they were both lying parallel, and the rifle was next to them. Neither one of them were moving, and again they were both partially covered by this green tarp. decided. And so the families decided to begin their own investigation in order to find out what really happened to their kids. They hired a private investigator, and throughout all of this, the authorities were not very helpful. They actually provided what appeared to be hurdles. It seemed like every time the private investigator would try to find something, he would meet resistance, and they weren't getting anywhere. The parents fought valiantly to get the case officially reopened, and in 1988, a new prosecutor, Richard Garrett, was assigned to the case. He replaced prosecutor Dan Harmon and opened the door to further investigation, with one of the first orders of business being that they would have the bodies exhumed and re-examined. So, upon deeper analysis by this coroner, it was found that the two boys appeared to have incurred various lacerations and injuries similar to those of stabbings and blunt force trauma to the head, which were not consistent with train impact and were speculated to have happened before. During this reevaluation, medical examiners concluded they had indeed been dead before the train hit them. Other professionals chimed in on this as well to help paint a picture of gross incompetence displayed by the original team. One, Dr. James Garrett of San Antonio, Texas, said marijuana would have been unlikely to have had the effects described, and that there was no test for drugs in the boys' system that had been carried out. A toxicologist named Dr. Arthur McBray concurred with this statement. It was also found out that the boys had been sent to the Arkansas State Crime Lab, not to the FBI where they should have gone. So, armed with this weird new evidence, a grand jury was eventually able to reverse the previous ruling on the case and reclassify it as probable homicide. The question now is, what the heck happened? Of course, other leads were pursued with renewed interest, as well as what happened to the reported green tarp. Law enforcement concluded that it had been an optical illusion, but all four of the train crew at the time continued to be adamant that it was definitely there. A sentiment that Garrett agreed with. It turned out that neither of the boys' families owned a tarp like this, and the fact that it vanished after the apparent crime was really highly suspicious. Interestingly enough, Garrett also uncovered a spookily similar case from 1984, in which two young men had been found lying across train tracks in Hodgkin, Oklahoma, in an eerily similar matter. Was there any connection? No one knew. Other eyewitness testimony trickled in under this renewed investigation as well, which further propelled the case into weird status. In one case, a patrol officer came forward claiming to have seen an unidentified man in military fatigues lurking around the area around the time of the incident. When police officer Danny Allen confronted him, the stranger allegedly fired upon him before running off into the night. Not long after this strange man in military clothing would purportedly be spotted again, but would melt away into the dark once more before he could be apprehended. Of course. Another witness came forward to claim that he had seen two local police officers beating the boys within an inch of their lives in a store parking lot before driving away with the of these boys, and he was later charged with federal drug and racketeering charges. It is said that maybe he had some kind of connection with their deaths. Some even claim that Harmon was there at the tracks the night that the two boys were killed. Talk of the two teenagers being at the wrong place at the wrong time and killed for witnessing a deal by a government-sponsored drug ring, with their bodies intentionally laid on the tracks to destroy evidence, and a massive cover-up put into place. There were several odd incidents which cropped up that have supported this theory. Harmon supposedly had Keith McCaskill take aerial photographs of the crime scene during his initial investigation into the deaths, shortly after which he was murdered. There's also been a mysterious 1989 death of Greg Collins, who had been called to come in front of a grand jury concerning the case and was found dead with his face blown off by a shotgun, as well as the other suspicious deaths of witnesses such as Keith Connie, who died in a motorcycle crash. The body of a Jeffrey Edward Rhodes was found in a landfill, and a mysterious disappearance of a Daniel Bearden. So is this all coincidence, or is it something else? The drug connection was also pursued in a 1988 episode of Unsolved Mysteries, which Garrett told host Robert Stack he felt that the boys had come across a drug deal that they weren't supposed to see and were killed, and also suggested a cover-up had been put into place. This theory has been extensively pursued in several books and other documentaries. There was a plentitude of questions orbiting this weird case. What happened to Don and Kevin? Was it marijuana? Was it an accident? If so, why would they wrap themselves in a green tarp? And where did it go? And I find it really odd that 4 people said they saw this tarp and then it was missing. Perhaps if it was suicide, I would think one of them would have left a note or maybe said something to the father that they saw. If the report of the police beating these 2 teenage kids was actually Kevin and Don, what did they do? Like, was it a drug deal? Did they see something they weren't supposed to see? Like, who was the guy in the military fatigues? Did he actually have anything to do with this, or was he just another wrong place, wrong time? I found a couple disturbing facts. They actually left the foot of one of the boys at the scene, and there are no hospital records of the boys' bodies ever being at the hospital. This case is so weird, y'all. I don't think it was suicide. I think that they were at the wrong place at the wrong time, and they saw something they shouldn't have. Whether it was a drug deal or not, I don't know. Being close to the airport where the cocaine was being trafficked through, somebody got charged for that. Like, there's a good chance that it just so happened that they were by the train tracks after midnight. Trains would be a good way to get drugs in and out, but the train they weren't by a stop. They were just near the tracks, but I guess it's probably, I don't know. I live near train tracks, and trains seem to go by at the same time every day. So I would think that if they stumbled across something and they were near the train tracks, whoever was making the drop or whatever they saw would know that a train usually comes. Maybe they were trying to get on the train. You know, people do that where they, what's that called? It's not hitchhiking. I don't know. I think of terrible, terrible. I can't even. They left a foot at the scene, and then, I'm sure that first medical examiner just, like, how do you even put the pieces of that together? You have two horribly mangled bodies that were literally run over by a train. I'm not trying to excuse anybody, but I think it's fairly safe to say that maybe he wasn't trying to cover anything up, that was just a lot, and that's his job, so he failed at it. But there were a lot of underlying circumstances that could reasonably say why. Oh, sorry, I bumped the table. Things were missed. I mean, if they're mangled, oh, I did it again. You have to find out whose arm is whose, and not to be graphic, but he probably wasn't looking for blunt force trauma to the head because he assumed that these kids died from being run over by a train. Granted, if the one kid had stab wounds and the other kid had blunt force trauma to the head, I feel like stab wounds aren't really consistent with being run over by a train. Blunt force trauma to the head, yes. Stab wounds, no. Maybe, I don't know, you could say debris or something, but no. Where did the tarp go? I don't believe that 4 people saw something that wasn't there. Where did it come from? What? If you killed them and you put them on the, there's like if you killed them and you put them on the train tracks to mangle their bodies and hide evidence, why would you wrap them in a tarp first? Because that's what made people think more suspiciously that it wasn't a suicide, because they were wrapped in a tarp. Like, they didn't just lay down to die. And where did it go? Were you standing there watching the whole thing, and with the hubbubaloo, you snuck off with a green tarp? I could just see somebody, like, running through like a nun with a tarp. I get the weirdest images in my head. I have to picture everything as I'm talking about it, so sometimes, when the details are really graphic, I get kind of, so I have to make a joke out of it sometimes, so I'm sorry if that was kind of inappropriate. Anyway, I'm gonna stop rambling now. What do you think happened to Kevin and Don? And if you have a case that you would like to see me cover, please drop it in the comments below. I try to cover everyone that I'm working on, a couple others, so if you mentioned something, don't think I forgot about you. I saw one just this morning. I try to always comment, so you know I'm not ignoring you. But some of them just take a little bit longer than others. Like, this one happened so long ago that there weren't many articles about it. I tried to piece together as many as I could find because I try to get you guys all the details that I can and find something that maybe you've read about it